Production and growth. So now you know how to measure productivity, you know how to measure inflation. Now you got to understand how different factors contribute to improving productivity. So, how different are living standards around the world? Why does productivity so deeply affect living standards? What are the contributing factors to productivity and growth rates of productivity? And how can we shape our public policy to improve productivity and keep enhancing growth rates to raise that standard of living? So what you've got here is a picture of a family in the UK. That's their house behind them there. And these are all of their possessions out on their front lawn. This picture is also in your book, for those of you who actually ever open your book. So let's take a look. We've got a car over here, bicycles, a grill, a boat. They've got a boat. Okay? They've got a 2-story house, lots of rooms. Okay? A little shed. They've got artwork and comfy furniture and a dining table and dishes and ample food. Look at all those appliances, a washer, a dryer, a dishwasher, a range. Clearly goes to private school, a flute. These folks are doing all right, right? Would you like that standard of living?
So would this be like, going back to the CPI, would this be like what's in the basket, like all this stuff?
No, not necessarily about CPI. It's about standard of living. It's about quality of life. We've got books to read. Anybody find a TV here? Yep, there's TV. Hey, it's not an 86-inch plasma, but they've got a TV. Okay? For those of you who've read the book, you know what's coming. A double bed back there, pretty comfy. Here is a family in Mexico. Middle income. So, by Mexican standards, about the same range as probably most of us in here. Where's their TV? No, he's cradling it on the couch along with his children. This is how prized that television is for this family. That's the couch. Got a couple of tables here, right? There's a range. Where's the washer and dryer? There's your washer and dryer and clothesline. There's the bicycles. Where's the car? Yep. Oh, sailboat?
Next one.
Artwork?
There's a few.
That's a calendar, a bank calendar, and that.
One there.
Yeah.
Picture.
Oh, that's the mirror. That's that kid's back. That's,
What the heck?
that's a mirror. Okay.
They have a nice clock, yeah.
They have a nice clock, yeah. Books, bookshelf. No, they've got some nice dishes though.
They got a fan.
They do have a fan. Yeah. They live in Mexico. They've got a fan. Okay. They have multiple beds. Got nice beds. Okay. They look clean, happy. All right. Not too bad, right? Could be worse. Let's go somewhere else in the world. Oh, I forgot to show you that. So the GDP per capita in the UK when this was made, 36,000, life expectancy 80 years, adult literacy rate 99%. GDP per capita, 14,000, so less than half of what it is in the UK. Life expectancy, 76 years, so not very decreased, right? Adult literacy rate, 86%. Not too bad. But you can see the impact that it makes. Mali. Anybody know where Mali is?
that on?
northwest portion of Africa. If you think of Africa looking like this, Mali's out here. Mauritania, Mali. Car, bikes. There's a bike. There's a bike. Washer, dryer. No. No TV. Not only is there not a washer or dryer, where are the clothes? On them. Clothes are on them. Beds. Bookcase. Artwork. Not even a mirror. Dishes. Nice kitchenware set. Yeah, right there. There's the kitchen appliances. Yeah. Give you a little sense of perspective. GDP, $1,090 a year. Life expectancy, 52 years. Looking at the living standard, any surprise that 52 years is about as long as you'd expect to live there? Probably not a lot of dental care, health care going on. Literacy rate, 46%. By accident of birth, you're here and not there. Don't forget that. All right. This one's always an eye-opener for folks. Find us, right there in the middle, right? Who's got a higher GDP per capita than us?
Singapore.
Who else? Yep, that's it. Okay. What's our growth rate? 1.8. Who's got a higher growth rate than us? Okay. All right. So what does this mean? What does this tell us? They're numbers. What does this represent? Are the Japanese better off than us? GDP is lower, but their growth rate's higher. Singapore's GDP is way higher than ours, and their growth rate's more than double ours. What does any of that mean, though? What do you do with these numbers? What? No, we're not going to plug them into an equation. The growth rate, guys, indicates to you how rapidly GDP is increasing. Look at China's growth rate over the past 40 years there. That's a significant growth rate, and yet look at how tiny the GDP per capita is. Imagine where they must have started if their growth rate has been 7%. Then look at Rwanda and how tiny their GDP is and their growth rate. Then look clear down at the bottom at Chad. That's a pretty dismal and bleak prospect for the future. You're living in one of those countries, isn't it? All right. Living standards vary a lot depending upon where you're at in the world. But why do the living standards vary so much across those countries? What factors can we point to that make Rwanda have such a low GDP and the United States or Canada have such a high GDP?
Industrialization, like
Okay. What industry do you have? Okay. What else? Huh?
Resources.
What resources? What natural resources do you have? Okay. Technology. Yeah. Healthcare. Life expectancy matters. Yeah. Actually doesn't matter a whole lot. What else? Where are you guys? Education, literacy. Education of your populace. Okay? Why do those growth rates vary so much? There's nations with all kinds of different levels of resources and technology and industrialization, and their growth rates don't necessarily track. Would you say the United States is more or less industrialized than China? What about level of technology? Education, healthcare? Why such disparity? All right. Because growth rates change over time, those rankings change. Just because a nation is poor now doesn't mean it's going to be poor forever. Singapore, the wealthiest nation up there in terms of GDP, was in miserable condition in the 60s. Terrible. They were down there at the bottom with Chad and Rwanda. How'd they get so far so fast? Some internal public policy decisions turned things around for them. Just because you're up at the top in terms of GDP doesn't mean you're going to stay there forever. Wealthy nations get overtaken. Russia, at one time, a global power. China, global power. The UK, took world history. You ever hear the phrase, the sun never sets on the British Empire? Right? What happened to them? What's happening to us? Who's coming next? Things change. So, our fundamental questions are, why are some nations richer than others? Why are some nations improving their wealth faster than others, while some nations seem to be completely unable to get out of the bottom of that list? I don't think you're going to see Chad turn around and become a Singapore on the top of that list in your lifetime. There are some fundamental reasons why some nations are stuck where they are. What policies can nations implement that will help them turn things around? And what kinds of things can't be overcome? Great book. If any of this stuff in this chapter interests you, a fantastic book to read. Book by a man by the name of Jared Diamond. The book is called Guns, Germs, and Steel. Fantastic read. Fantastic read. And a lot of it is about being in the right place at the right time and having the right resources. Some of you probably read some excerpts in the class here or there. The entire book is an amazing read. All right. Contributing factors. Country's standard of living depends on its ability to produce goods and services. So it's all about productivity. Okay? Your ability to produce goods and services depends upon how productive your nation is per unit of labor. So if every nation in the world had an equal amount of labor, there would still be disparity because some of that labor would be more productive than labor in other countries. If Y is real GDP, meaning how much output is going, and the L is the quantity of labor, productivity is equal to GDP divided by labor. You're going to need to know these abbreviations inside and out. You're going to have to know these equations. When a nation has productive workers, GDP is high because productivity is high. When productivity goes up quickly, so do living standards. Duh, right? This is straightforward enough stuff, isn't it? Common sense. Okay. So, if all we need to improve our living standards and raise our GDP is to make workers more productive, let's just do it. Let's just make them more productive. So the question then becomes what? How do we make our workers more productive? We provide our workers with physical capital. We give them tools to help them be more productive. Okay. Physical capital is K. It's capital K. Let's go back to my desire to have a pool in my backyard. Okay. I want a pool in my backyard, and I hire Rhiannon and Afira and Lawrence come and dig my pool. And they go to work in the backyard. They show up looking just like they are. We'll wait until spring when the ground is thawed. That will just be an advantage. By the end of day one, how much pool do I have dug, ladies? I'm lucky if they've even pulled the grass out, right? Because what have they got? They got their hands. I didn't give them any K. Gave them no physical capital. If I want more accomplished tomorrow, what do I need to do? Give them a shovel. I give them one shovel tomorrow. There's 3 of them. I give them one shovel. Yeah. I didn't even give them buckets to move the dirt with, so one person's turning the soil over and the rest of them are picking it with maybe in their shirts. I don't know. Okay? Throw in. Maybe I'll give them a wheelbarrow the day after. Be a bonus, right? The more physical capital I provide those workers, the more productive they are. Maybe a spoon, a shovel, and a wheelbarrow. Oh! Dayton wants to go crazy, wants me to get him a backhoe. Wow. If I give them that level of physical capital, can they be more productive? Yeah. This is such a duh kind of thing, isn't it? What if I give them 3 backhoes? There is such a thing as excess physical capital. If I give them 3 backhoes, what am I going to have? They're going to knock my house down. I'm going to have a mess. 2 of them will get all tangled together. They'll pull each other into the hole. They'll knock down the fence. It'll be a worse mess, right? You can have too much physical capital. Productivity goes up when you increase the amount of physical capital per worker. Diminishing marginal returns. Yes. Very good. If we increase K per L, we increase productivity per L. An increase in physical capital per laborer results in an increase in productivity per laborer. Again, a duh kind of idea here. It just makes sense. Why are we even learning this? We knew this, but you didn't know it in these economic terms. Human capital per worker. Remind me, what is human capital? Your ability, your understanding, your experience. It is what you lack as new entrants into the job market. You are weak in H. It is why you don't merit a high wage. You don't have the experience, so you don't necessarily get paid a premium wage. Devin, are you with me or are you working on today? Don't let me hold you back. You are here to acquire H. Guess what they don't have in Mali? A system of free public education. So guess what factor for productivity is not improving in Mali? Or Rwanda? Or Chad?
okay's not.
Agreed. This is where the literacy rate comes in. I don't care how much money you want to invest building a factory in Mali. If you don't have workers who can read a manual and repair and maintain the equipment and operate it safely, you can build the fanciest factory ever. You can dump all kinds of K into Mali. But if you don't have the H to operate the K, your Y is going nowhere. Does that make sense? Take an Amish guy off the farm and drop him into your fancy little electric car. Is he going to get real far? Probably not. You won't be able to find the reins to make it go. At the same rate, if I take any one of you and drop you onto that Amish farm, it's going to be a tough life. You'll have plenty of K, but what will you lack? You'll lack the H. Here, Davis. Bucket. Go milk the cows.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Just because you've seen it in the movie does not mean that you can do it. There's a lot of H involved in milking the cows. A lot of H involved in milking the cows. You know what, Delaney? Here you go. Here's some shears. Pasture full of sheep out there. If you want to be warm this winter, go shear the sheep. Morgan will help you spin the wool. Hannah will help you knit the sweaters. It's not just about education. It's about experience and know-how. Are you following me? Do not feel superior to those folks on that Amish farm, because they have a whole different skill set. How many of you, if a button falls off your breeches, couldn't fix it? Yeah. They sew their own clothes.
My mom.
Yeah. Your mommy and always do that for you.
Yeah. I have like 30 moms.
How many of you couldn't do your own laundry or have never done your own laundry?
Oh my God, Robert, really? Robert.
How many of you would have to survive on mac and cheese instant bowls and warmed up soup and ramen noodles if you moved out today?
I'm fat. I have to eat pizza.
You've got plenty of education, but you still lack a lot of H. Are you seeing a pattern here? It takes all of these things to improve productivity. Natural resources per worker. Why is Saudi Arabia a desert nation up there in GDP per capita? Oil. Because they happen to be positioned on top of a large oil reserve. That would be what we would call luck, I suppose. Name me some natural resources possessed by Mali, Chad, or Rwanda.
Diamond.
Rwanda does have diamonds. What about Mali and Chad? Mali does have some gold. Chad?
A nice name.
And a country out there that kind of looks like it might be the side face of the dude named Chad.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yep.
And you.
Okay. How about the UK? Why are they a relatively wealthy nation? Originally, coal, they industrialized early, and they had, until they cut them all down, a lot of trees, so they had a navy. Okay? And then they developed a trading empire. All right. Singapore. Explain Singapore. What end do they have? How big is Singapore?
They have a lot of those lines.
They do, in fact, Lauren. However, those are not a natural resource and do not contribute to the wealth of Singapore.
I just love
They
to
have a
say
lot of mines.
I've been there, so that's all I remember.
Was it nice?
Oh, that was when I was in Japan.
What makes Singapore so wealthy? What?
Do they have a lot of trade?
They are a trade hub. I think you got to look it up. What makes Singapore wealthy? Switzerland. What makes Switzerland one of the wealthiest nations in the world? They're in the mountains. Chocolate.
Why?
They got that. They got that
I
Toblerone.
mean, knives.
I'm like, okay,
That's why
thanks.
Switzerland's
They got- That's right. They've got the knives.
The knives and the watches.
There's a lot of things out there.
Crude
They
oil.
trademarked the medical plus sign.
Ceteris paribus. The more N you have, the more Y you can have.
They make aircrafts. They have crude oil and other petroleum.
They don't have as much crude oil as Russia, the United States, Mexico, Venezuela, the Middle East. That's not buying it. They're a tiny island nation. They can't export as much aircraft as.
As soon as they make a radio equipment. It says that 73% of their GDP comes from services.
What kinds of services?
I haven't gotten that far.
So they just like make our t-shirts basically.
So they have 600. They don't. They may have 120 countries.
They don't. They're not a manufacturing nation. Singapore's too small to be manufacturing. They do have very little debt, which means their people are able to consume without cost.
They just have so few people that when they spend this sacrifice of money,
They have a very small population. Their population is very well educated.
23% of their exports come from petroleum oils, and then 16 from electronic integrated circuits. So like stuff they make.
What are these services, though?
I don't know.
Their educated populace means a lot of call centers, folks. Most Singaporeans can speak multiple languages fluently. This is one that you can't really change, though. Either you have the natural resources or you don't. But some natural resources are easier to get to than others. When natural resources become harder to get to, like natural gas or oil deposits that are further down or are in not big pockets, if you don't have the technology to be able to get to the rest of the N, you're not going to get them. So we in the United States are blessed. We have figured out, with the use of our H, we figured out fracking so we can get to more of our N. We developed offshore oil platforms so we can get to more of our N. We developed open pit mining so we can get to more of our N. We have gigantic dump trucks and backhoes, so we can get to more of our end. It all works together. You have to have the H and the K to capitalize on the difficult end. Follow? Some of them do have the M. Molly has a lot of gold. But they don't have the H. They don't have the K. Japan. Japan is a series of volcanic islands. Volcanoes are not known for being fertile in soil. They're not known for producing abundant resources. So the Japanese have always had to import what they need. Thus, our oil embargo and our steel embargo of the 30s, leading Japan to feel so pressured that they did what? Took over almost all of Asia and the Southern Pacific in order to acquire more N. If you don't naturally have N, you have to go take it, or you have to trade for it. Your mama never packed you Twinkies. You had to get really good at talking somebody into trading your carrot sticks for their Twinkie at lunch, right? You lacked the N in your lunch bag. If you couldn't talk anybody into trading your carrot sticks for their Twinkie, then you became the bully and you took the Twinkie, right?
Okay.
One way or another, you got to get those resources. All right. Now, technical knowledge, and understand that this is different than H. Technical knowledge is what we have applied to do the fracking. Technical knowledge is anything that lets you do it better, more efficiently, faster. How many of you have seen The Walking Dead or World War Z or Z Nation or any of those post-apocalyptic, Divergent or The Hunger Games, right? Okay. So let's go with the zombie apocalypse. The H3N2 flu turns out to plant the zombie seed in people. Come about April, when the freeze breaks, zombies start to roam the earth. Okay? You will still possess your H, won't you? The K will still be sitting out there available for you to use, right? Less of it. We can assume that if shortly after the zombie apocalypse, the power infrastructure is going to go down. Because nobody's going to be working the coal mines or running the trains to deliver the coal to the power plants and running the power plants to send stuff out over the grid. Which means your clean water supplies are going to go down pretty quickly too, right? Okay? So how many of you possess the technical knowledge to provide yourself with a clean source of water? You know where to dig a well?
Actually, too. My dad had to do it for our trailer. You can boil the dirty water.
You've got the fuel.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Can you do that in large enough quantities to provide for a settlement, or can you just take care of yourself?
Probably just like my family.
All right. All right.
Please excuse this
We'll stop here
interruption.
today. Remind
Will
me right where we're at
juniors
tomorrow.
and 2 sophomores who took the PSAT please report to the audit